Welcome to Star Wars on High. Thank you for stopping by. We are back with the Thursday night live stream. I got to tell you, I am now paranoid about doing the intro without hitting go live. After
Really?
time that Ben and I sat here and I started doing the whole intro and I never hit go live. I now am like at the corner of my eye looking for the red dot. Ben, welcome back, my friend. It's Thursday night. How are you doing this week?
I'm doing fine. Thanks, man. It's always a pleasure to meet you. We are hopefully going to get Jimmy in here quickly, just a few minutes late. He's going to join us, guys. But yeah, I got back to playing some Outriders with my younger brother. You know what I was thinking?
What?
I was putting in two and two together. Some of the earliest PlayStation 1 games with Star Wars were Episode 1, where you kind of like traverse these narrow corridors and you play with Qui-Gon Jinn, Obi-Wan Kenobi. I'm thinking to myself, today games are all about open worlds and single experiences. It's all about you. I'm thinking to myself, hey, what if like you and I got to experience a Star Wars game, hopefully in the near future, where it's like just you and me, and we traverse these corridor-like hub-based worlds, and just like 2 or up to 4 Jedi party walking around just kicking ass.
Ooh, man. That's one thing we have not had yet in Star Wars, I feel like, is a true multiplayer co-op. I don't mean like a shooter. I mean like an actual, to your point, like outside of Lego Star Wars. Yeah, absolutely. That would be really cool. Well, I would tell you, we have so much to talk about tonight, Ben. I know Ben and I were talking about this for the stream. I know a lot of you don't have a chance to watch this live or you come late. So for those who are not watching it live or those who are going to be jumping in and out, let me start telling you guys kind of an overview of the night. So we're going to talk about a lot of different things. I want to kind of give you a little bit of the flow. So there are 2 main chunks of conversation, which are going to have a lot of side alleys for us to explore. First of all, we had the Vanity Fair article earlier this week that has a lot of different topics involved: movie news, casting news, behind the scenes info, etc. So we're going to talk about that, of course. That's going to be a lot of topics. But it is also, this week was the 20th anniversary of Attack of the Clones. I recently had a conversation with Jimmy about, you might have seen our video talking about our favorite moments of Attack of the Clones. And I know Ben has recently revisited that film. So we're going to do a little bit of a group remembrance of Attack of the Clones, a movie that I think we're going to have a lot to say. So those are the 2 main buckets tonight, but there is going to be a lot of avenues to explore. So thank you guys for being here. Thanks for staying tuned. Buckle up. We are going to talk about a lot of different stories. Ben, this was, to me, a signal of things to come. For those who don't know, this early week started with just a giant Vanity Fair article coming out. A bunch of pictures. It had basically the whole crew. It had our key marquee actors. Let's go ahead and change the background, Ben, to get people in the spirit here. Here we go.
There we go, man.
The amazing cover itself. Let's get this shared up on the screen for those who did not have a chance to look at this beautiful cover. First of all, Ben, did you like this cover? I keep saying beautiful. I don't know if you're a fan. I think it's fantastic.
I love it. It's such a hero shot. I was like, hold on a second. Is this one show? It's like Avengers of Star Wars. Are they all like popping off in the same show? Not really, but it has that epic look to it.
It does. And I liked the tagline, which is the rebellion. The rebellion will be televised, which I liked. Thought that was fun. So this article came out really out of nowhere. At least it wasn't on our radar, and it just dumped so much news. Covered everything from reflections on movies past. It talked about upcoming projects, gave us some hints at release times, gave us some behind the scenes on Acolyte. We're going to talk about all of that. But first, I want to say, to my earlier point, yes, Barb's Basement, 100%. It's going to be spicy time. Star Wars Celebration is next week.
Yeah.
Kenobi is next week. I think this was Disney kind of doing the pre-groundwork for some official announcements coming next week. This was kind of laying the scene of, hey, here's where we're going, here's the direction. And I think it is going to be a sign of things to come. Now, before we go through all of the things that stuck out to me, I want to start with my friend Ben here. Ben, what did you think? First of all, were you just as surprised as I was when this article dropped? I mean, what was your thought seeing this? I woke up one morning, it was like all these stories are flowing through my feed, whole behind the scenes. What were your thoughts when this whole launch.
Well,
From
not
Vanity Fair.
really, right? Because we had precedent for it. The same was with The Last Jedi, The Force Awakens. They hit you with the next, either, I think one of them was Time Magazine, always Vanity Fair does their own version, but it's always these amazing photographs by Anne Lubavitz, right? Her legendary photographer doing these sweeping pictures. And that's what pulled me in all the time. I looked at the imagery first. I'm like, hey, hold on a second. Alert, what is this? New Star Wars? And that's how you get into it. I honestly wasn't surprised because as we were approaching the date and we saw only 2 trailers, or we should say a trailer and a trailer 1.5, really. It wasn't really like a completely retooled new trailer. But hey, something's got to give. Where's more news in Kenobi? Where are more news on upcoming stars? And we know the celebration is almost there. So it was only natural to me. I was like, I wasn't surprised at all. It's just in terms of the dates. I was like, when is it? Here we go. All right, now the buzz begins, the official buzz for the show, for the future of Star Wars. Let's start talking about it.
Yeah. Let's go ahead and I'm going to go ahead and change our screen share here because there was one, there's actually, to your point, Ben, quite a few really great shots. For those who haven't seen the article, I highly recommend you check it out. Let's go over and transition to this little shot right here. All right, this is our creative mind shot. This is kind of the architect view here, right? We have Dave Filoni, Jon Favreau, Kathleen Kennedy, and the director for Kenobi, Deborah Chow, right? And first of all, I absolutely love the new stage setup they have to work with. This digital screen technology is really, really cool. I had a chance to see them kind of demo this technology live at Universal Studio. They had kind of a live a way of showing. They did this kind of like real-time stunt thing. It was really cool. And the technology is amazing. It is so cool. They've now used it in the Batman. They're using it in the Mandalorian. And so you see that on display here. You see pieces of the N1 starship over here. They have Slave.
Let me ask you a question.
Yeah.
Josh, since you got to see it actually live, you know what? It's one thing that I'm always curious about that you can't experience unless you're there. I'm almost imagining like, hey, they have the screens there, they have the live stage in front of you, actors performing, but there's got to be some contrast differentiation between the screen and the live performance because the lighting is going to be different. And is it something that they edit in post-processing after they finalize the films or the shows, or when you're there and they actually demoed it for you, did the screen actually look like it's part of your environment there? Was it convincing?
A couple moments in particular, yes. So there was, so they do it in the universe of Jason Bourne, which when I heard it was like, oh, it's a Jason Bourne stunt show, I was like, oh, this is going to be such a snore fest. But like when I got in there and saw it, I was like, oh, this is so cool. Like, I'm so glad I went to this. And there was a couple times that actually looked really, really good. So there was like a car chase scene where it was obvious that we weren't there, right? I mean, it's okay. the motion, even some of the car effects, right? It's very hard to fool the eye and that's happening. But there was one scene where they are in a kind of a desert setting, okay? It's kind of like a Middle Eastern setting. And they have actors on set, and behind they have actors on the screen. And depending where you sit in the room, like I can imagine if you like were sitting at a sharp angle, you could probably see the difference. But right. There was a couple times that like there were actors and people on the screen that I couldn't tell who was really there, like at certain angles. It was really well done in certain segments. Nice. But definitely on the films, they're doing some correction, right? They have to be. But what they're showing us here, right, is if anyone had any doubt, Dave Filoni and Jon Favreau are really leading the creative process for Star Wars. In the article, there's a lot of conversation about their perspective, and what really drove it home for me was in the Book of Boba Fett, behind the scenes, the gallery episode. They talked about Jon Favreau had such a hand in Book of Boba Fett, right? And so did Dave Filoni, and so it to me it's driving more and more home that these guys are taking a real lead role. And yes, Stevie B, hopefully Jibby will be here soon. He is he has I forget if it's twice a month or once a month, right? Yeah, he's got a rehearsal thing he does, so hopefully he will be here joining us soon. But okay, so we get this picture, we have the creative minds. I know some fans obviously hate to see Kathleen Kennedy up there. That's not me. I don't care. She's worked closely with George. I don't,
Hey, without her, I don't think Disney Plus would be where it is today.
Yeah, I mean, when you're the CEO of a company, you do have some responsibility in the failures, but of course, I also feel like that means you should get some responsibility in the successes too. And I
Right.
think they've had some real wins under Disney Star Wars. But regardless, we get this kind of creator shot, right? And then we get some really, really cool ones as well. Here, let me sub this one
Hey, I
out
like
here.
this shot right here.
Yeah, this is the best shot right here. They should have had us in Vanity
I
Fair.
know.
If you check
Imagine
out,
two creative minds, you and I, behind Star Wars.
oh my
Let's
gosh,
do this.
we have the Kenobi look. This was a really cool shot here.
Mhm.
You could see again, you could see the screen technology they're using here. You see the lines in between it.
Right.
In the behind the scenes, like they were on set. Like these aren't like photoshopped on here. This is the real actors in front of wind machines to make the caves move. And they did some post process on the lightsabers. However, the lightsabers were glowing during the actual photo shoot, so they enhanced them further. What I love about this shot, we don't spend too much time on it, right? We've seen these characters. I love how tall Vader is. I love how imposing he was behind the scenes. Like he just has such a presence. Hayden in the suit, he fills it out really well. Like, you know, say whatever you want. Like he's got the stature of it. So this is a great shot. You know, we know
But it's actually Hayden in the suit.
It was, yeah.
Oh,
it was
nice,
for behind the scenes.
nice.
At least I thought it was because they had him there in the behind the scenes photo shoot, and he talked about working with her. So I just assumed. And they also good segue there.
Wait, can you bring that shot just back for a second? I had a question.
Oh yes, for you. Yeah, of course. Give me one
so
second.
taking into account that one, and I'm pretty sure you went through all the shots as you saw the article. So this particular shot, but then a couple of other ones. Where is it just me or the lightsaber thickness, which is a very, very hotly debated, it's like a point of contention. Did you notice that they're thinner? They're a lot closer to the original and New Hope versions.
I did a little bit, and I think to me it makes sense because these movies are closer to A New Hope, right? Kind of, right? I mean, like, you know, they are supposed to be kind of ushering us into the new era. Like that's one thing Rebels did, right? Rebels notoriously had very thin lightsabers, like very, very thin lightsabers.
Right.
So maybe we see a little bit of that here, which I like that idea.
And I gotta say, man, Moses Ingram, she's my new crush. She's gorgeous. She's intelligent. And you know what? When you see her in that 8-minute interview that she talks along with these veterans of Star Wars, and she's sitting there, not only I enjoy her a level of comfort. It's like, yeah, of course, you know, I understand that. We'll jump into that. Maybe I'm jumping ahead a little bit, but just like the lady's confidence, and she's like, yeah, I know what I'm doing. I know this is big. And it means a lot for fans, but like you also got to experiment. You got to be playful with it.
I think
charisma sells it.
And I think Inquisitors, like for me personally, I think Inquisitors are great. Like, I'm trying to think of the way to word this. It's not too clunky, but like, let's be honest here. Inquisitors, there's a lot of freedom with how they're portrayed and what they, you know, there's not like a real, like, we have the Grand Inquisitor, we have some reoccurring ones, but let's be honest, like in the comics, there's like a bunch of random ones you see in the background. There's like one in my head in particular in one of the Vader comics that's a Twi'lek who's like almost oily black, like blacked out, you know.
Ooh, and I haven't seen that.
Yeah, like I probably can find it. Like I've never seen him in any other games or comics. My point is that like they play around with Inquisitors a lot, and I think that, you know, some people are hesitant because they're introducing a new character. I'm like, whatever, you know, Inquisitors are cool with me. You can have fun kind of bringing them out and showing them off. So I think I'm excited for how we're going to see them portrayed here on the big screen. To transition though, why I thought Hayden was in the suit, by the way, during that behind the scenes kind of look in Vanity Fair, we had some Hayden Christensen training shots, guys. I don't know if everyone saw this. I hope you have by now, but this is our boy doing some lightsaber training with Kenobi stunt double. So if you don't think they're going to fight, even though they've kind of alluded to it many, many times, I mean, unless they just are baiting us here, like it looks like there'll be some sort of confrontation. I love that they have him reverse. I love to have him rehearse with the cape on in front of a giant fan, because they're having him get comfortable with the resistance of the wind being pulling him back. He's got the boots on to get used to kind of a more of a clunky kind of step. And I just love this. Disney has even brought Vader back in Rogue One, for example, and did not have Hayden return. So they did not need to have him come back. There is no reason they had to bring him back, except for the fact that they wanted to respect the relationship him and Ewan had. They wanted to respect the fans' love. And I think, like, I know it doesn't seem like a big deal, but I do think they deserve a lot of credit because it probably would have been easier and cheaper to just not bring him back, put some nameless guy in a suit, stunt double in a suit, and then have, voice, get our voice recordings in, and you never even have to show Hayden. But they had him back. He's going to be doing the lightsaber fights in the suit. Like, I love it. From a prequel fan,
I'm sure
it's great.
Ewan McGregor had something to do with it, right? What's his credit? He's a producer of the show, right?
I think so. Yeah.
So definitely it's him, and it doesn't make any sense. This show culminates in, if you're going to bring these veteran actors 20 years after, and you have Ewan McGregor, this is basically the prequel trilogy 2.0. You can't have, this is your perfect golden opportunity while these actors are still capable and somewhat within, even if it's for a few moments we see younger Padme. If we see Liam Neeson reprise the role as Qui-Gon Jinn, like, if you have one chance in the world to ever do that, this is the show. This is your time. This is your prime time. Do it all.
I think many are expecting and this might be getting our hopes up for nothing, but I think many are expecting the Clone Wars era flashback, right? They're expecting some sort of maybe Ahsoka, Ewan, Hayden all on screen together, which would be really cool. I want to look at these at a couple lines around Kenobi in the article. We won't spend too much time on Kenobi because we're literally a week away, guys. This, we are almost a week away. Couple more hours, but we're almost exactly a week away from the Kenobi premiere. So we're going to get a lot of our questions answered. But she made some interesting comments here. So in the fall of 2019, Chow sat in Christensen's living room asking him to return as the most fearsome tyrant in the galaxy. Logs crackled in the fireplace. A cup of herb, lemon, and ginger tea steamed in Chow's cup. Vader, she told Christensen, would add a new dimension that could ultimately reframe the way fans look at the classic duel in the original film. At the time of the meeting, it had been 14 years since Revenge of the Sith, and the actor assumed his galactic glory days were done. He was happy to be wrong, and he said, this is a character that's come to define my life in so many ways. I was originally hired to play a very specific portion of this person's life. Most of my work was with Anakin, and now I get to come back and explore the character of Vader. I'm like, yes, that's awesome. Like, I love that. Absolutely love that. So really cool. One thing they talked about as well, I'm looking for the quote here. It had to do with, and I'm going to paraphrase it. It's in here. But she talks about the fact that there was really a love between Kenobi and Anakin. Mm-hmm. And she kind of wants to explore that dynamic of like, they there's this hatred in that, but there was this love. They were brothers, right? Brotherhood book, right? It's just came out. And she felt like to make that effective, she had to have like the original actors who played those characters in the prequel. And I was like, yes, that's exactly right. Like, that is exactly correct. Absolutely. So 2 thumbs up with that. I consider Kenobi to be very important, right? I want it to be the best show I've ever seen. I want it to be the best thing of Star Wars I've ever seen. But regardless, if the show comes out and it's a dumpster fire, it's the worst thing we've ever seen, we're all up in arms. I will say, like, I really love the fact that it gave like these actors a chance to kind of feel the love that the fans have. Like, I think that's important. Like, I don't want that to be missed in all of this, because in a couple weeks from now we might be criticizing an episode or whatever, and the fandom's upset again at these guys. But I think it must be really cool for them, and they've said it in their interviews. Like, wow, it's really cool now that like 15 years later I can finally hear from people that they love this, and it's Ewan McGregor said it. Like, it's reframed my relationship with Star Wars. Like, now I actually know people liked it. I feel better about it. Mm-hmm. And that's just awesome. So like, to me, that's a win on the Kenobi project, regardless of how it ends, right? Just one thing I wanted to say.
I had 2 things there. I want to rewind just a little bit.
Yeah.
What if I had a thought? What if all this crazy training that we see, and obviously, Ewan McGregor, we're going to start earlier footage of him training, and now Hayden Christensen. What if it's one of those popular, huge misdirects?
Yeah.
And the encounter between the two will be very brief, and we see most of the time Vader demonstrating us his ultimate power during the Jedi Purge.
Yeah.
And just smacking Jedi left and right? Because it's only 10 years, and who knows, Luke is still a kid. It's still, time is left until to a point where Yoda tells them, the last of the Jedi will you be, right? Yeah. There's got to be a lot of them running around hiding incognito, or sowing the seeds of possible rebellion, and Vader's going to go around and crush it. That's one. And the second thing that you mentioned with their love relationship, right? Obviously, because Kenobi tells him, like, you were my brother, Anakin. I loved you.
Yep.
What comes to mind is the original Ben-Hur film, 1958, or I should say it's a remake of an older, silent era film. But anyway, everybody knows, Charlton Heston and, all these famous Hollywood actors. Funny enough, Charlton Heston admitted years later that when the director approached him and screenwriter, when they were actually working on the film, there's two, for those of you guys who may not be aware of the Ben-Hur, right? One of the biggest Hollywood epic costumed movies ever made, the winner of 14 Oscars awards, which I don't think has been rivaled to this day. And there's a famous couple of two friends. One is a Roman and one is a Jew, right? And it takes place in ancient Palestine, where the two friends become fierce enemies. Kind of like a very analogous situation with what Kenobi is to Anakin.
Yeah.
And the director told the writer, that's according to Charlton Heston, who plays the lead role. He said, the director goes, I want you to write these two characters as if they were lovers.
Yeah.
And the scriptwriter said, wait, come again? He said, yeah, I want you to treat them both as lovers, because I need all of those emotions come out. I need all of that jealousy, all of that, hey, why didn't you pay attention enough to me? Kind of like almost like a bickering couple. And that's funny enough, that's what we see a lot of in the prequel trilogy between Anakin and Kenobi, because every step of the way, as Anakin's descent happens and as he becomes more bitter and more cynical, he still has love for Kenobi until the very last moment. I'll be very interested to see how they handle it here, if that dynamic continues. Like, hey, I kind of hate you, but you're still kind of my boy. I still love you.
I found the full quote, Ben, to lean into what you said. So it says, part of Chow's successful perspective on why Vader and Kenobi should face each other again may surprise even the most ardent Star Wars fans, especially those who think of the two as harboring an epic contempt for one another. Right. She says, for me, across the prequels through the original trilogy, there's a love story dynamic with these two that goes through the whole thing. I felt like it was quite hard not to include the person who left Kenobi in such anguish in the series. What intrigued her was the idea that despite what Vader had become, Kenobi might still care deeply about him. I don't know how he could not, she says. I don't think he will ever not care about him. What's special about the relationship is that they loved each other. And you even see that in A New Hope, because when he's reminiscing about Anakin, it's very fond. He's like, he was a great man. The idea is that, he presents it as he's died, right? Basically, he's like, your father's not around anymore. Like Vader, he doesn't even consider them the same people almost, which I find, to be really kind of cool. So I like that she's leaning into that. That's encouraging to me. And to respond, Ben, to a comment you made earlier, I'm probably going to make a standalone video about this because I have so many thoughts. And Ben, you and I probably can even have some back and forth on this, but I don't want to spend too much time on it. The Kenobi versus Vader rematch conundrum. Yeah, I definitely think this could be a bait and switch. They might do a tease where it's like they almost fight and then it's not, which will upset some fans. And some fans will like it because I get fans in my comments, no exaggeration, once every 2 days telling me if they fight again, it will ruin it, right? They can't fight again. They can't. My perspective is different. I actually think it could be successful either way. I do not think my opinion on a second confrontation before the final conclusion and the circle being complete in A New Hope is simple. I think you can make it absolutely viable if there's just solid storytelling and solid acting behind it. And I could, you can easily start to put yourself in the mindset of, look, Darth Vader at this point in his head believes that Obi-Wan ruined everything. He blames her for Padme's death, the death of his children, right? His current existence, which is pure agony, constant suffering, constant pain, having to be this horrible, mutilated, robotic figure. He blames Kenobi for all of that, right? Imagine the hatred and anger he has for him. And it's not like the dark side encourages you to put that anger and hatred on the side and say, oh, I'm gonna put that aside. No, he's told by his master to continue leaning into that, to continue to be filled with hatred. It makes a lot of sense to me that Vader would, especially in the early days, post being charred, would not rest until Kenobi was dead or found. You know, especially in those early years when he's probably just filled with rage and filled with hatred. He knows
Right.
Kenobi. He knows Kenobi.
He's still in that zone. He's like, you know how
Exactly.
they tell you, like, after the fight is over, that's it. You're supposed to go separate ways, but
No.
not in his case. He's too consumed by hatred.
And he knows Kenobi made it because he saw it. He got chopped up and he left. So it's not like he's under any impression that he might have died. He knows Kenobi's out there, and so it makes a lot of sense to me that he would have every intention of like mercilessly hunting him down, especially early in those first 10 years after. Different conversation for a different day, but one thing we could all agree on: this is a really cool thing to see. Hayden back at it, doing some behind the scenes photo shoots. Now, I want to do one more thing before we leave Kenobi, because we have some, I think, more interesting. Well, I shouldn't say more interesting, just some, I guess, more future projections. Kenobi's right around the corner. They did have kind of a cool little video tribute here, where our good friend Ewan McGregor reflected on being able to pick up the mantle of Kenobi. So let me go ahead and get this video up. It's like a minute. We'll go ahead and watch it together. Chat, as always, let me know if there's any problems with the volume. This is on the official Star Wars channel. It is a minute and 36 seconds. Ben, make sure you can hear this as well. Let's watch this as friends. I'm not going to pause it until the end. It's so short. We'll just watch through it. And let's get rolling.
The first time I got to watch Star Wars, I was pretty blown away. Alec Guinness, as Obi-Wan Kenobi, did some of the most amazing work. To play him as a younger man, I was really excited about it. The first big experience for me was going to the studio where we shot episode 1. The props master brought up a big chest. He looked me in the eye and he opened it up. And I got to choose Obi-Wan Kenobi's lightsaber.
This is my favorite one. That's the one.
Yeah. So that was a moment I'll never forget. The first lightsaber work we did was when we fight Darth Maul. That was an amazing thing to be part of. It was incredibly intricate. We were just going so fast. Action! It was quite unlike any other filmmaking I've done. The first time I got dressed up as Obi-Wan again, it was a special moment. The wonder of Star Wars and the excitement of playing Obi-Wan Kenobi, it's really quite something.
All right. So a fun little reflection there by our friend.
My boy's selling it hard, man. He's like, go watch it. Go watch it now.
I mean, you know,
I mean it in a good way.
No, definitely. What I was gonna say is, you know, I mean, when I watch these, like, to me, what always hits more so than like the promises of what's to come is just like looking at how long we've known this character. You know, it's kind of incredible how long this character's been part of our lives. So I thought it was a really cool little clip they put out. Again, really great to see these actors that I grew up with. Right, this is you know my Star Wars heroes I grew up with. So to see them kind of be able to, you know, revisit, rejoin, reflect, it's been cool. Really excited for it, and looking forward to just a week away now, Ben.
Josh, I want to address what Alice is telling us in her comment. I want to kind of represent the boomer generation a little bit here, right? Boomer council. You can address it from that angle, you know. A lot of my enjoyment and coming back into loving Star Wars again, the prequel era, the prequel decade, as we talked about, the Clone Wars show and all of that stuff, and all the beautiful books and comics that made it very enjoyable for me again. A lot of it had to do with me as a fan having a receptive, open mind and say, well, okay, even though this little thing doesn't quite fit here, let's stick with it. Let's see where they go. If I get to enjoy the character, what's more important to me? The consistency of the storyline, the immaculate thread of logic, or just beautiful characters. And Ahsoka is one of it. Even though it's kind of a full stretch to imagine that Anakin would have stood at any point in his life before he turns to Vader, it's kind of far-fetched. But once you follow through with it, it's like, you know what? She's just such a great character. Just give it to me.
Yeah.
And for me, as much of a purist as I am, I'll tell you this. when I was a kid, I made a clear distinction between Kenobi and Vader fight versus the other fights in episode 5 and 6. That, this fight specifically, like, this is kind of corny. It's like an older gentleman trying to like show like he's fencing, but it's obviously he's not able to do it. And episode 5 and 6, in contrast, are to me to this day are the greatest fights in Star Wars. But now that I circle back to it and I see the way that they hold the lightsabers, how they really treat it as this laser weapon that boom, one hit and you're dead. As an adult person, you find reverence for that scene and for the beautiful talent and work that Alec Guinness does on it. But here's the thing. I never like revered this scene in the beginning. So it would be disingenuous of me to say, you know what, this is the most amazing, immaculate scene in the world. You can't run on with it with current stories and completely override it and ruin stars. That's all would be me hyperventilating. I'm like, guys, all right, let's be real. Yes, okay, yes, Obi-Wan Kenobi, the way that language works in the original trilogy, the last time Vader and Kenobi meet is on Mustafar. We all know that. I mean, you don't need a lot of attention to kind of grasp that. But my point is that if your mind is receptive, if you get to let go of what your dear Star Wars is, it's like, guys, all right, they're embellishing, they're running on with it. George Lucas did the same thing with his prequels, right? There's inconsistencies between the two trilogies. Just roll with it. Have a good time. I think personally that a powerful story, a memorable story that lasts forever, is far more important than logic. Because at the end of the day, fans could all grasp it and interpret it and rediscover it as, hey, these are just legends told by different heroes at different point in time. One person will spin the tale this way, another person will do it another way. Does it really matter? It's not real life. It's not history,
Yeah, I think my opinion. So I'll be honest with my audience. I don't have a problem telling you guys. I am team rematch. I'd like to see them fight again. I always felt like this fight was not a fight. This was Kenobi. This was not like a real state of the galaxy, future of the galaxy moment in the sense of that battle. Kenobi was completely resigned to dying to inspire Luke. He is literally has like a smile on his face throughout the fight because he's kind of like, it's like he's come to closure, right? He's kind of come. He knows what it means. He's cool with it. He's good. He's accepted what it means. His
journey is fulfilled.
Exactly. He's completely comfortable. It's not, to me, it doesn't make sense to me. And this goes to something you talk a lot about, Ben, which is whatever people want to say, George Lucas did not have all 6 movies planned out from the beginning. There's no way, right? Because to me personally, all personal opinion, if the last time they met each other was Mustafar, this scene doesn't line up. This doesn't just make as much sense to me because where they ended with Mustafar, to me, it's not a natural progression. This would be their next confrontation. Like Vader should be so much more angry, so much more full of rage than he is here. He's almost just kind of taunting, like, "Hey, old man, I'm gonna beat you up." Like that's what he's like. The quote is, "When I left you, I was but the learner. Now I am the master." Whatever anyone wants to tell me, that line sounds like someone who left the Jedi Order by his own will and was like, "Oh, you're old man, you're a loser, and I'm the master now." It doesn't sound like, "Hey, you cut all my limbs off, killed my wife, killed my children, and made me live in constant pain." Don't tell me it does. I don't care what anyone tells me. It doesn't. It goes to something you talk about all the time, Ben, with the art of Anakin before he was Vader as like a full-grown man with a wife and kids and a shadow of Vader. Like, I do not think when George wrote this line, he had in his head that Kenobi cut off every one of his limbs and lit him on fire.
And that's why we're friends, man.
Exactly. I don't think that's true. So to me, like, I am so on board with the rematch because if the rematch, depending on how it goes, the rematch to me could actually make this last scene make more sense. Like maybe Vader has some maybe the fight is really even, or Vader really overwhelms him and Kenobi only escapes barely. And Vader feels a little bit of closure, like, "Oh, I'm better than him. Like I'm better." And so when they meet here, he's like, "The circle's complete. I'm gonna kill you now. Like this is the end. Like I'm already better than you. I've like grown even more powerful. You're old. It's over." Like, and that's why Vader here doesn't come off full with rage and like desperation, like I have to kill you. He's just so supremely confident he's going to do it that it's because, you know, he knows how much more powerful he is at this point.
You can reconcile the scene in a very, very simple manner. The fight ends with Kenobi winning, just like he kicked Maul's ass in Rebels, right? And then his parting words are, "You're still not ready. There's too much anger with you. Go away, my Padawan, my student," right?
Yeah.
You could still, again, it's all in the hands of the storyteller. If she knows the source material, it's within her limit and her desire, really, honestly. It's her story. It's her generation now. She's inheriting it from George Lucas, but I don't think any filmmaker should be obliged. It's like, they should honor their original. No, understand the source, understand the DNA, understand what makes Star Wars so timeless, but then take it for a spin, innovate, change it around enough that, you know, it doesn't turn into something like Hulk or something entirely different, but give it a new voice, give it a new language. That's what every filmmaker and storyteller does when they put and do adaptations of famous books. Let's say you take a classic like Treasure Island. If you just retelling the story that's on the paper, you as a director don't represent anything. It needs to have your angle and your particular voice. If the director adds her unique voice to the scene, she could, like we said earlier, recontextualize it and still make it jive with what we see later in the films.
Yeah, absolutely. No more needs to be said on it right now because Ben and I keep talking about this for an hour. But, you know, to me, it's all about execution. Even if the idea is perfect, if execution's bad, whatever. So that was on the Kenobi front. You could see we had like 30 minutes of news just on Kenobi, which is a week away. Much more to come next week on Kenobi. Stay tuned. We're going to be talking about what we're going to be doing for that. But now we move to the young guns, the newbies, the new rebellion, right? The new live action face of Star Wars. On this screen, we have represented the 3 upcoming next Disney Plus shows after Kenobi. We have Andor, which is going to be later this summer. Okay, we now know Andor is coming out later this summer, which to me highly leads into that we're going to get a teaser during Star Wars Celebration next week, or maybe at the end of Kenobi, but it wouldn't surprise me if we got our first confirmation. We have Mandalorian in the middle, which is going to be coming out in winter of 2022 or January, February of 2023. Very similar to Book of Boba Fett that just came out earlier this year. And then finally, we have Ahsoka, which will be out at some time next year. So these are the 3 next shows on the docket. Now, Mandalorian and Ahsoka, I think we don't maybe need as much convincing to be excited. We have Mandalorian for 2 years now. We've seen him in the Book of Boba Fett. Season 3, I personally am putting a lot of weight on season 3. I fully believe they need to take the show in some new, interesting places because, you know, we've kind of, I think, to me personally, and I could be proven wrong, but I think we've kind of come to the end of like Mando and Grogu kind of figuring out the relationship, if that almost makes sense. So much of the first couple seasons been, what do I do with Grogu? What do I do? Like, it feels like now we should put that to rest, right? Like, we can't keep, you know, season 2 was kind of smartly crafted, which was like the journey to return Grogu home, right? That's what season 2 was. All of it was how to get Grogu to the Jedi, how to get him where he needs to be trained, right? And then the 2 episodes of the Book of Boba Fett were really like, hey, okay, he made it to the Jedi. That's not where he belongs. He belongs with you, right? Okay, I don't want another season of what do we do with Grogu, right? I would like us to move this character forward and either have him struggle more to find his place in the universe and how he manages, you know, having this young Jedi Padawan with him. Right. I know I'm dreaming when I say I'd love to see them do things with Mandalore more. To me, episode 5 of Book of Boba Fett really leaned into the Mandalorian lore. They showed the Night of 1,000 Tears, right? They showed a lot of what could be. It seems to me, he has a Darksaber. It seems to me like the show could build to some sort of reestablishment of Mandalore because, correct me if I'm wrong, Ben, as far as canon's concerned, we know nothing about what happened to Mandalore after Return of the Jedi. They didn't talk about it all in the sequel trilogy. I haven't seen anything about it in any of the new books. I could be proven wrong, but Mandalore is just like a free zone where they can tell all new stories about, maybe reestablishing some wandering Mandalore, caravans or something. Like, I think it's a really cool thing they could do. That, would be exciting. I don't think they're going to do it, but I think it'd be exciting. Ahsoka, look, we love this character, right? We love her animated character. It's going to be exciting to see what they do in live action. We've had a little bit of a taste, very small. I thought she was phenomenal in the book of The Mandalorian season 2. I thought her episode
was the best one.
Agreed. Her episode is phenomenal. So I'm all in. They are going in the Ahsoka show to set up what is going to be, I think, the big villain for the Disney Plus verse, which is Thrawn, right? They're going to have strong connections to Star Wars Rebels, we assume. So, Ahsoka's got a lot riding on it. But Andor, to me personally, and I made a video about this last week, has been low on my radar. I'm like, well, like, what are they going to do in Andor? Like, is it just going to be, Rogue One was great, but do we really have a lot more story to tell about this Andor character? But I will tell you, based on the interview, I am certainly a little more intrigued. What it sounds like, in everything I can tell, is this show is going to be grittier, which Rogue One was. In fact, the Andor character in Rogue One was operating in that gray morality, right? He was doing things that seemed like immoral, but he was doing them for the rebellion, right? So it played with that. Like, hey, the rebels are kind of doing some things maybe they shouldn't be doing either to try to win this war. We see a lot with Saw Gerrera's character, right? So before I dive into some of the quotes, let me ask you, Ben, what are your feelings on Andor? It's coming out later this year. What's your excitement level? Do you care? I know you're going to watch it, but what do you feel about today?
Let me just very quickly run through all of them, kind of like sort of you did, and focus attention on each one. As far as Mandalorian goes, to me, you know me, I'm not a huge fan of it. Like, I think it's all right. I'm happy that it has a humongous following of fans. My favorite episodes were always where it's him and the Mandalorians doing their Mandalorian thing. He's the foundling. It's his relationship to the tribe growing into it. And I don't understand why we spent 2 seasons of him becoming a daddy to a child, which it's not quite Mandalorian thing is like, this is the way, but this is what he's doing. And he goes on his merry journey becoming a father figure. Again, his motivations to me were never clear, because yesterday you were a cold-hearted killer / mercenary for hire, and today suddenly you're just this good doer kind of.
To jump in with you real quick to support you, episode 5 Book of Boba Fett, I mean, he like massacres people in the opening scene. Like, he takes that Darksaber and just like hacks the dude in half.
Yeah. And I was supposed to believe that he's a daddy. Again, not to criticize the show. It's that's something that you enjoy by all means. I hope the show returns to its roots and starts exploring what I saw of the potential of the show in those episodes. When he is with the blacksmith, when he's with his boys, he's like, we got your back. When all the Mandalorians come in and they help him actually escape. I want to return to that and actually explore that part, because the trailer to that show looked dark and gritty, but the show to me was nothing of the sort. And I'll circle that back to the Andor show.
Yep.
Now with Ahsoka, I am the most excited for that show, just as much as I'm excited for Kenobi. Why? Because like you said, it could be our way into revealing the greatest Star Wars villain in the expanded universe, Admiral Thrawn. But it's not just him. It's not just the surprise of it, who could be in it. It's just honestly getting more of Ahsoka. It's her show. It's the evolution of her character, of what it represents. What does it mean to be a post-Jedi society that she lives in? That she abandons her ways, but she's still a Force sensitive. How does this sort of character live in the world where Yoda tells Luke, the last of the Jedi will you be? It's like, hey, hold on a second. How does that work? Obviously, we know in both Star Wars Legends and canon, people are aware of the Force. There's different tribes, different cults, different factions who experience it in different ways, right? Yep. So it will be interesting to see where Ahsoka goes there, and how is her story a Star Wars story? How does she evolve? How she does mature? How does she grow? And what other adventures she might have? And now moving to Andor. Andor to me is this big question mark, unknown variable.
Yep.
Because when we saw the trailer, before this, we saw the trailer to the Rogue One. Nobody cared. People like, hold on a second. Why are we seeing the prequel to Episode 4? Like, can we have another trilogy instead? What is this? Everyone saw the trailer. Everybody's answer was unanimously like, hey, this is dark, man. This is green. What the hell? Who is this new director, Krennic thing? People were excited. So for the Andor show, I hope the moment that I'm waiting the most in Star Wars, me as a 40-year-old guy, and that's what I want from Kenobi as well, is when is Star Wars going to mature? Not mature in rating, mature in its filmmaking, mature in its content delivery, mature in its, you know what I mean? Like, it's grow up, because everything that I've seen in live action on Disney Plus has amounted to very safe and family oriented and very marketable, very kind of like, hey, this is entertainment for, all. It's very expected. You know what I mean? And I personally haven't felt, with live action side of things, I haven't felt the thrill of like, oh, wow, they're innovating. They're going this direction. I haven't seen other shows doing on HBO or Max or whatever. Wow, this is what they're doing. This is fun. It's been all very well packaged and well delivered. And there's like a sense of just staleness to me. So that's what I want them to have with Andor, to be this unknown variable. It'd be like, oh crap, all right, they're finally addressing the adult demographic. They're doing something for us. A lot of political drama, a lot of intrigue, a lot of backstabbing, and exactly what Cassian does in the beginning of the film: shoot another innocent guy in the back, because that's what the war sacrifice requires.
Yep. And thanks, CVB. We love seeing you. Appreciate you stopping by the stream tonight. Let's read something here about Andor, Ben, to kind of go. I'm gonna make a hot take right now, based on nothing. We haven't seen a trailer yet.
Right.
I'm gonna bet that Andor is going to be your favorite Disney Plus show that we've gotten so far. I'm gonna bet that. It's just my hot take, because I feel like, I'll tell you why before I read this quote. I feel like Andor is Disney Plus's the show that they care least about marketability, because they would not have picked Andor if they cared about marketability. They would not have done it. Yeah. They could have done a ton of other things. To me, like, the only reason I can think they did it is to a more adult, mature audience, because I don't think if they want to make a family-friendly show, they would have ever picked Andor, considering how he was portrayed in Rogue One. And supposedly this character is even more hardened in this show, is kind of what they talk about. So the quote here says, the story begins with the destruction of Andor's birth world, then follows him into adulthood when he realizes he can't run forever. It talks about how he's really cynical at the beginning and how he's like a very reluctant hero, which we kind of see in Rogue One. He still is that kind of character. And, we have Mon Mothma, who's going to be a character. I think she'll probably be kind of the idealistic light, because that's what she is as a leader. But to me, if they wanted to make safe content, Andor is not the checkbox $1 billion, sign up here, please. So I have hope that the types of stories we're going to get are not going to be, let me put it this way. We're not going to have an Andor episode, to me personally, where, and I like this episode. I'm just using an example where, like, we have a fun side quest with a frog lady and her eggs and a little baby's eating them and the ice spiders are there. Like, I love that episode actually, but objectively that is made more for a younger fun. It's a fun adventure episof, right? It's very old style TV. Like it's, episodic and nice, but I think Andor is going to be a little bit more, less of that, is my opinion.
Do you think more experimental, because people are not fixating on the show being their absolute everything?
Exactly. Yeah. I think you have a lot more freedom with a character no one really has a lot of expectations with.
And Diego Luna, he's fantastic.
Yeah, he's great. I'm very excited. As I said in a video, if you guys haven't seen it, I made it last week. Star Wars Explained made a video saying why you should be excited for Andor, and I reacted to it to kind of hear his points. And he makes some really cool points. One of the things he says, which I say sometimes too, but he kind of reminded me. It's like, like when a new show is announced, you can't help but look at it through the lens of like what you want to see. Like, I don't want to see. Like, there's so many other things I want to see. But not every Star Wars project needs to be made for me, number one. And number two, that was my exact attitude about Rogue One. And I really, really like Rogue One. And I like Solo as well. And that was kind of my reaction to Solo as well. So it actually, what I've actually found recently in Star Wars is the movies that I had extremely low expectations for, I was rewarded, and the movies I had extremely high expectations for, I was disappointed. So maybe that tells me something I should learn about, right? And so hopefully Andor will be the same. Later this year, we're not far away, and that's what's cool. I mean, this is going to be. We're going to find out pretty soon whether this show is worth the hype or not. And I think, the way I'd put it is this, and this is my dreamer brain. This is my fanboy brain. We're going to talk about Acolyte in a second. Shows like Acolyte, shows like Mandalorian have more opportunity to explore the things that I really like about Star Wars, which is like the kind of, I'll call them fantasy elements. So in episode 5, Book of Boba Fett, it's one of my favorite Star Wars episodes of anything ever, where it's very heavily Mandalorian focused, right? But in the opening, when he's there practicing with the Darksaber, and they're talking about how like, oh, you can't fight the weapon, and she's talking about like the prophecies of Mandalore, and she's talking about how Bo-Katan, like she brought doom because she broke tradition, and he takes his mask off and like, oh, you can only be forgiven by bathing in the fountains underneath Mandalore. Like, I love all those very fantasy elements, right? The very like, this is our culture, and there's prophecy, and there's power beyond what we see in play here. Like, I really like that kind of stuff, and you don't have as much of that in a show like Andor, which is why it doesn't immediately appeal to me. But that doesn't mean that, it can't be extremely valuable and awesome in its own way, right? Is kind of long story short.
Yeah.
The last story on our docket, I see chat kind of talk about this already, was Acolyte. Okay, so what did we learn about Acolyte? Well, truthfully, not a lot of what I would say is brand new, but we did get some interesting comments. It takes place 100 years before the Phantom Menace. Okay, it is at the very end of the High Republic era. Okay, and something that was kind of controversial, she said, was like, at this point, the Jedi are very they're not involved in conflict at this point. She makes a comment specifically that their Jedi uniforms in this era are gold and white, and it's almost like they can wear gold and white because they're never getting dirty, they're never getting into fights, which I think makes a lot of sense, right? I think that it's logical that they would get to that place naturally before they eventually crumble, right? And she talks about what they're going to explore. She made a comment that I actually really agreed with. She said, when I watched The Phantom Menace, my first thought was, how was it possible the Sith were able to move under the Jedi's nose? Like, how did they let all this? And that's what the show is going to explore, which to me, like, this is just personal preference. Like, that's something I'm very interested to see, like, especially if it's done well, like the scheming of the Sith to lay the groundwork for their eventual rise. Right. That's my kind of show. 100%. I don't, I'm in, like, and being 100 years before Phantom Menace, the only character that we should know, well, there's maybe a few, but Yoda would basically be it, right? There's not going to be any other real carryover characters. I'm going to be fascinated to see how they portray the state of the Sith. The Jedi obviously weren't aware of the Sith. How are they operating? How are they maneuvering in secret? Are they going to talk about like Darth Bane? He's canon. Are they going to talk about any of the things that he moved in place? Are we going to find out, like, as a big dark side fan, this show is just top my list. Like, this is what I'm most after Kenobi. Again, Kenobi is, but after that, I mean, this is like the kind of lore stuff I love, like the evil maneuverings of the big bad. Like, that is so intriguing. She described the show as a mystery thriller, which is like, just like in my veins. It's all promotional, so we'll see when the show comes out. But that description of a mystery thriller about the dark side, it's like, yes, please. I want that so bad. So that's what we've learned. Very little. That is going to be probably a late 2023 show, so we have a lot of time before that comes out. I don't know, Ben. What do you think about the Acolyte? We don't know anything about it at this point. What are your thoughts?
The Acolyte, I want to, and guys, this is, please keep this in mind. I have not finished Darth Plagueis, the novel. As some of you who follow my channel know that I love reviewing Legends books, right? I've been reading them for 20 plus years, and I love James Luceno. He's one of my favorite authors, but for some reason, that book didn't work for me very well. I finished it halfway, I stopped halfway because it's actually one of the very few Star Wars books I have not completed from the ones that I've read.
Yeah.
And the problem that I had with it Not that it was poorly written. Like I said, I love James Luceno. He's more than capable. He's a very talented author. But what that book stood for, how it treated the story and Darth Plagueis' character, or maybe it also was by association. I wasn't a huge fan of the prequels. I couldn't understand why there was a lot more emphasis on politics and industrial espionage rather than tapping into the dark magics, kind of like I'm doing the Tales of the Jedi video series now, right? The ancient Sith magics, the ancient twos, kind of like Indiana Jones. You feel something, the stuff that I personally enjoyed, that I grew up with.
Yeah.
And I couldn't dig it. With Acolyte, what I really hope they tap into, and don't get me wrong, I love my politics in Star Wars. If it's politics connected to the Sith Order, you know what I mean? If it's the Acolyte, if it's indeed a dark side user-centric show, then I think you should celebrate it. I think you should emphasize it. And don't give us a relatable fallen hero, possibly redeemable. That's like, I don't like these type of villains. Like, you're not willing to step on full gas and go all the way and say, you know what? I want a complete irredeemable badass character that's like, we just love to hate. You know what I mean? It will be refreshing for the time, because we have grown as a society, as a streamlined entertainment to users and fans. We've became very sanitized in a way. But no, you don't have to stand. He can be a villain, but there has to be a humanized part to it. And don't go this particular route. It's like everybody now has a say in how a villain or a hero should be portrayed. Go back into the straight 80s, like complete testosterone, adrenaline rush, no apologies, no like just balls out villain, man, and go crazy with it. And I think if you manage to raise the brows on a couple of Star Wars fans, they'll be like, hold on a second. This Acolyte show is doing what no other show is doing on Disney Plus. I think I might want to watch more of this.
There's a line, to your point, Ben. There's a line to me about a villain who has understandable motivation versus is redeemable and nice. Let me use Thanos. Let me use Thanos as an example. Thanos is Marvel's probably, I would say, easily their best villain they've ever did. Mm-hmm. And the reason Infinity War is the best Avengers movie, in my opinion, is that whole movie is a Thanos movie. Yeah, we see our heroes, but it's all about Thanos. He's the main character. He's almost in all the scenes. And he's very much has a relatable backstory. He's like, hey, my whole planet was destroyed. Like, right. I had this radical idea to save it. They didn't listen to me. And now, you know what? I have to do this. I have to save the world. Like, I have to save the galaxy through these terribly heinous actions, which is literally killing half the universe, right? So there is a line between understandable morals or understandable motivation and redeemable, right? Thanos is not redeemable in any way, but he's completely understandable. General Zod in Man of Steel, he's like, hey, yeah, I'm going to destroy Earth, but like my whole planet was destroyed. I tried to save them. They didn't listen. My whole people are dead. I'm the only one in my race left. I have to save my race, you know, at the cost of another. Again, like the morals aren't actually justified if you follow through, but you can put yourself in the headspace of a villain. Mm-hmm. So anyway, no, this is not anything to do with Kenobi. This is talking about Acolyte. We're just talking about the types of villains we're going to see.
Right.
And, for me, the reason Acolyte, Star Wars has oftentimes experimented with the villain who, it's a reluctant villain almost, like someone who is, Finn is a great example, right? He was a villain who, like, once he kind of was exposed to the reality, was kind of not super down with it anymore, right? So we absolutely have a time and a place for that. The villain who like has a change of heart once they kind of see what they're really doing, right? You even see this in Rebels, the episode with oh my gosh, they get stuck on a planet together. One of the Imperial agents whose name, one of the Imperial agents, I'm totally blanking on his name right now, gets stuck with Zeb on a planet together.
Yeah.
And it's like, they kind of have that like, it's like, hey, I know I like killed a bunch of your race, but like
Agent Callus.
Thank you. That's it. Yeah, and he's like, hey, like it wasn't supposed to be like that. Like he has a little bit of like an understand. They have an understanding for each other, right? Because at the end, he's like, your people murdered a bunch of mine, and it's kind of like, oh, okay. So I don't mind reluctant villains or villains with a change of heart, but in a show like Acolyte, which is promising to be like the dark side's rise, like you have to be dark a little bit, right? Yeah. So we will see how it plays out, of course, but time will tell. We are the farthest away from Acolyte. I'm the reason I'm most excited for it, outside of Kenobi, and Ahsoka is really hyped too, is it sounds the least like what we've seen before. It is the least. We've seen Andor stuff in Rogue One. We've seen Ahsoka stuff through Rebels and Clone Wars. We've seen a lot of it. We've seen Kenobi, right? We have never really seen what Acolyte is promising. So fingers crossed they follow through with it.
The less eyeballs we have on it, the more opportunity or incentive they'll have to be playful with it.
I could make a video about this. I will say though, if you think, in my opinion, it's all Josh's opinion. If you think like Star Wars plays it safe on Disney Plus, I could argue, and Star Wars plays it safe in general. I could argue that the Marvel wing of Disney plays it 50 times safer. Outside of very few things, like I thought Moon Knight was really good. That was probably the most experimental thing they've tried, and it's not even getting a second season. That tells you all they felt about
That's
it.
confirmed.
Well, I shouldn't say they considered it a mini series, right? They didn't consider it season 1. That does not mean they can't bring the character back in some capacity, but that was the most experimental thing they did, and I loved it, but maybe not for everyone. Okay. We have already been at this. This is how crazy week it is. It's an hour in, and there's still like 6 things I want to talk about. But I would be remiss to not, at least at this point, maybe transition to a reflection time about Attack of the Clones. Because today was, well, I shouldn't say today. Earlier this week was the 20-year anniversary.
Josh, I'm sorry, guys. You keep talking. I have to bring a prop here as you talk. I'm not going to
do it. No, absolutely. And GFed, I agree. Loki was good. I liked Loki as well. WandaVision had its moments, but just personally, like I think Marvel in general, movies, etc., plays it safer than Star Wars does, which is fine. I mean, if you're making $1 billion every movie you make, that's fine. Yes, Infinity War is still the ballsiest thing Disney did. It's the best. That's why it's in my top 2-3 favorite Marvel movies. It's fantastic. Infinity War is easily the best event film they've ever done. It's so good. Endgame is like good, but Endgame is good more for like the heroics and the big set pieces. Infinity War is like such a great constructed 60 characters to juggle, introduce an entirely new villain, but somehow feel like you have full context for him afterwards. So absolutely. But back to Attack of the Clones. Okay. A movie that was not loved when it came out. Speaking of not playing it safe, but a movie that means a lot to me. And I think it might mean a lot to Ben. I will tell you, Jimmy and I did a deep dive about this earlier this week. Go watch that. I think Jimmy has some nice reflections on it as well. Ben, what did you bring as a prop for Attack of the Clones? What do you have over there?
Not much of a prop, but it's prop to me.
I love that cover, man. That's such.
You guys remember this? You know this?
Yes,
Blu-ray set, right? So something interesting happened. Obviously, a lot of us are watching the Blu-rays, at least the prequel trilogy side of it in preparation for Kenobi. So I'm right now on Revenge. I think I'm going to watch it after the stream or maybe tomorrow. But I watched this a couple of days ago for a gazillionth time, right? Not a new experience, not a new movie, but yes. I watched it again. I don't know. Maybe it's too much streaming, too much of my mind being polluted by fans like you. Maybe I'm going crazy. I don't remember ever enjoying that movie as much as I did this time. And I did, mind you, in theaters. I vividly remember my every opening weekend when it came out in theaters. I watched every prequel in theaters, I believe more than once.
Yeah.
Revenge of the Sith, I have seen at least twice. And I clearly remember back then, I'm like, it's like, it's better than Phantom, but like, it's still not my Star Wars, right? But I clearly remember kind of like enjoying the underground of the, chorus and so forth.
Yeah.
This time around, I'm like, oh shit. I could actually see why people like this more than sequel trilogy. Crap. Like, I'm lying to myself. Like, no, Ben, you're supposed to dislike it. And, dude, like, You're a sequel boy, all right? You're the original kid in the 80s, and then you're the fierce defender of sequel because people can't talk with nuance anymore. Everything has to be extremes. I either love something or I hate something.
Right.
And I'm just, Josh, I'm telling you, dude, like I'm watching, I put it on. I'm like, oh shit. Like, yeah, Ben. From now on, your kids will know prequel trilogy as well, and perhaps they'll like it more than you do. It was wonderful.
Attack of the Clones for me, and I talked about this in my video, so mild spoilers for that. It was the first Star Wars film I ever saw in theaters. So that right there kind of puts it in a special place, right? It's my first time. I was the actual perfect demographic for Attack of the Clones. So it came out 20 years ago, which means, not revealing my age here, but let's say I was between 7 and 10. All right. I was the perfect age group here, right, for that film. And when they made it, and George had this Geonosis bug versus, Jedi fight, and they had this amazing Jango Fett in the rain and the sonic charge go in theater, and of course the Coliseum with the crazy monsters coming out to eat our heroes. Like, all of those scenes work so well for me. And in a reflection earlier this week when we were making the video, and I started to think back, I started to maybe pinpoint why I liked Attack of the Clones, probably so much more than the average fan did. Even though I could argue it's the worst of the prequels, maybe. There's a lot of, which I think I ranked it worst of the prequels when I did my rankings earlier last year. But, that stuff changes, as you kind of reevaluate. There's a couple things I thought they did extremely, extremely well. What vividly sticks out to me are a couple things. Number one, Kamino. Kamino introduced as a character almost all to itself, and it was fantastic. I loved when Kamino came onto the screen, and this intrigue comes, this mystery comes. Oh, this Master Sifo-Dyas requested the army. They're ready for you. And Obi-Wan's like, what the heck? I remember as a kid being like, kind of freaked out. Like, oh, what's going on? Like, who did this? And they play the eerie music, and you have this dark, rainy environment. But on the inside, it's this very sterile white. So it feels, and they have the Kaminoans have that really weird way of talking, right? They have that very airy kind of, and so it's like, oh my gosh, what's going on here? You have Obi-Wan with his Obi-Wan's on a solo mission in that movie, right? Tracking down the dart from the assassin. And he keeps reporting back to the council. And at one point he's in the rain and he's like, they're on to, I think we're on to something. And it's very eerie. It's very I'm going to say noir, not really, but kind of, where it's right? Yes, there you go. Thank you. And it's I love that. And then you have the great fight between Jango Fett and Kenobi out in the rain. I love the dialogue between Dooku and Kenobi. I think it's really great when Dooku comes in and he's very charismatic and he's like, oh, this must be a mistake. I'll have them bring you down right away.
And the delivery, man.
Yeah. Such a good actor. And the way he tries to kind of pull Kenobi maybe over to the separatist side, right? He's a little bit like, oh, because at this point, we're just meeting this character, this Dooku, right? We don't know nothing about him. And he's really likable. When he comes onto screen, he's very likable. I remember being like, I kind of like this guy, he's seems cordial. He seems respectful. He seems to maybe have some insight. And then even moving forward to what some people don't like, but as a kid, I ate this up in the theater, especially when little Yoda comes out, gets his lightsaber, starts bouncing around. I know a lot of people don't like that, but young Josh really liked that. I really liked that when I was little. I thought that was the coolest thing. And then going to the very end, you have that great line where Yoda's like, begun the Clone Wars have, and you flash over and you see all these clones, and it's just like this kind of wow, this is going to be big. Now, it took a long time for us to get the payoff of the Clone Wars until the show came out. And we actually got to see what those Clone Wars were. But Attack of the Clones, to me, set all that in motion. It's the first Star Wars I ever saw in theater. It had a lot of great things aimed at kids. There's a lot in that movie aimed at kids.
Right.
And I for the longest time, and I could even maybe make the argument, I might like Attack of the Clones better than Phantom Menace. Phantom Menace has a better overall scene. Duel of the Fates, I think, is better than anything in Attack of the Clones. But I think Attack of the Clones maybe has more fun moments for a fan. So 20 years later, I want to applaud Attack of the Clones, because without that movie, I'm not here talking to you tonight and all the chat here tonight in 2022. So let's give credit to Attack of the Clones, George's vision.
Absolutely.
I'm a fan.
And I will always repeat this as a mantra, guys. We can criticize something and love it at the same time.
Yeah.
And I remember just not feeling well about being a Star Wars fan, where I constantly had to defend prequels, and I did. I really did in my film school with all these snotty kids. I could have done a better job. He could have done it. It was just not felt cool, just constantly bickering and people like spitting toxicity about it. And what I always appreciated the fact is that, hey, you know what? This is the kind of filmmaking George wanted to make. As a little kid, and somebody sitting in his own playground and saying, "Ooh, I'm going to make a little movie here, and I hope kids will enjoy it." I will always respect and admire George for doing his things his way and not compromising his vision, not even for fans. And this is something that a lot of people are dodging today. A lot of people I interact with, especially on Twitter, have this narrative that A, the backlash towards prequels never happened, but B, also saying that we don't accept everything here because it's not George Lucas' vision. Guess what? George Lucas never cared about what you think his vision is or isn't either. This is how the environment in which prequels are made, and I think it's something we need to celebrate. The spirit of innovation and the spirit of following it through till the end. If this is what Kathleen Kennedy and Dave Filoni and Jon Favreau are doing, and you dislike it, then just leave it at that, saying it like, I love it, or I dislike it, or somewhere in between. But respect the fact that this is what people are doing. George Lucas's vision or not. This is what the Star Wars is post George Lucas. We all knew that will outlive the creator and will live for generations to come.
Star Wars has become this interesting thing, where it has gone through many different phases, right? It's gone through phases of being the biggest pop culture phenomenon, of all time. It's transitioned to a period of, rejection by original fans.
Yeah.
It had a resurgence, and Ben and I made a podcast about this that'll be coming out in the near future, where we talk about maybe the resurgence a little bit of that hype when the sequel trilogy originally came out. And now we're here where it's been more divided than ever. I'm going to put than ever in air quotes, because here's my personal opinion on this. Everything in life right now, because of social media, has become the extremes. Every take online is the hottest take that it can be. Every conversation is cut short and immediately kind of devolves into finger pointing. And for all of us who have like real friends and real people in our lives that we talk to about Star Wars, we know that it's a lot more gray, right? I have family members who don't fit into any of the molds. Phantom Menace, original trilogy, prequel fan. They're all like, they like random movies. They don't like other random Star Wars movies. They like certain shows. They don't like others. They're not this that when a new show is announced, they're like, oh, sweet, more Star Wars. Oh, that's cool. They don't care if Disney made it. They don't care if George made it. They don't know. They aren't interested in George's quote vision. I think a lot of people don't understand, like, outside of the Star Wars bubble we're in, I could go sit down with some Star Wars fans, people who've watched every movie, every show. And I've had it happen where it's like, maybe they've never seen Clone Wars, and they're like, oh, what do you mean Clone Wars? What's that about? I'm like, oh, it's an animated show. They're like, oh, is it like for kids? I'm like, well, I mean, definitely some episodes are, but it actually fills in a ton of gaps. Like, oh, is it like canon? Oh yeah, it's canon. It's real. That's where the Darksaber comes from. And they had no idea. They've watched everything else. They have no idea. So many the real majority of people aren't this polarized into like this. I hate everything new Star Wars. I don't like anything new Star Wars. I like it all. I don't, it's just not real. That's not how anyone is, right? But online, we're kind of enticed to be all in one way or the other. You kind of got to be all in. And Jimmy and I did a new series this week called The High Council Court, where there was a topic that was being debated, which we might talk briefly about: recast versus deepfake. And at the beginning of when we planned the video out, Jimmy and I easily understood that, and if people watch the full video through, they'll hear us talk about this at the end. We easily understood that there are times that could make sense either way. And then, of course, there's no one size fits all. But one of the thoughts for the series was, let's pick a side, even if I like, because let's be honest, I'm not full deepfake. I picked a side because what I wanted to do is take an argument and make the strongest argument for it I could to maybe better understand it, right? Even if I don't fully agree with it, like let me try to argue for it the best way I could and see if maybe I'm, things are exposed. And Jimmy did the same for, being pro recast. And, the whole concept there is like Jimmy and I totally understand there's both. Let's make the strongest case for one over the other. And then at the end we get together and we just say, hey, Jimmy, you made this great point I really loved about how recasting can bring new young actors and they can provide something totally different to the character. And that is such a great point. I love that we talked about that. And Jimmy could say, yeah, Josh, you're right about deepfake, specifically with Luke, because Mark Hamill is so on board. Like he wants to do it. It's fun. Like to him, it's like it's being able to revisit a character that he never possibly could, right? And so there's good arguments to be made either way. But we're in kind of a space right now where hot takes get clicks, and it's a lot harder to be nuanced in online conversation. That's just where we're at. So things get challenging just to have like an honest conversation. But that's the internet for you, and we're all guilty of it, I'm sure. Diving in too deep. There's a couple other stories that came out, Ben, and we still have. I mean, we are so deep in that I want to at least hit 2 of these more points.
Let's do it.
On the film side, because people might be like, yo, Josh, what happened to the movies? All we talked about was shows today. What happened to our Star Wars movies?
Right.
Well, it's a great question. We got a little bit of information. The Rian Johnson trilogy has been put on hold. No movement on it right now. It's not canceled, but their indication was he is very busy with all the Knives Out sequels he's doing now for Netflix, and they're not having any sort of movement related to Star Wars. Taika Waititi's film is actually the first plan to be in theater, which I thought was fascinating because we didn't even know what it's called. And then it's supposed to be followed by Patty Jenkins' Rogue Squadron. So they have fully leaned off the gas on Star Wars movies, which I think is going to pay off in the long run. Because I think when they finally do return to the big screen, the appetite is going to be there. And hopefully, if the shows continue to be successful, they'll have bought in some fan support as well, right? 2 new directors to Star Wars, Patty Jenkins and Taika Waititi. Both have made phenomenal movies I like. Both have made some shows or movies maybe I'm not a huge fan of. I love Wonder Woman, the first Wonder Woman. Wonder Woman 84 is not nearly as good, I'll be honest. But the first Wonder Woman is, I think, phenomenal. I think it is really, really good. One of DC's best movies. The ending's weak, but the rest of the movie's phenomenal. The No Man Land scene in particular is really good. And then I think Taika Waititi's had some just absolute winners. Jojo Rabbit is really good. What We Do in the Shadows, you guys might know about the show that he produces, but he did a movie first that show's based off, and the movie is hysterical. So funny. Oh, it's so worth the watch. He directed it and acted in it. So good.
And he did both of Thor's, only the second one.
Only the third, only Thor Ragnarok. And
Thor
he's directing
Ragnarok.
Thor Love and Thunder. Those are more. I like those movies. I will acknowledge, though, I could see if you're a big Thor fan that they might not be the kind of movie you really wanted to see, because he very much leans into this is a funny, goofy, Norse god. We're having fun with this, which some people love and some people hate. That might be refreshing in Star Wars. I can make a good argument that we could maybe use some of that in Star Wars because we've never really seen that. But my point is there are 2 directors who've had some really, really good performances. They're new to Star Wars. I'm all in. Excited to see where we go from here. And Ben, I would be remiss if I didn't have new merch to show you tonight. It couldn't be our live stream if I couldn't show you some new shirts.
You Disney show.
So these popped up on my favorite site this week, Heroes and Villains. Ben, do you see what these are?
Oh, these are awesome.
These are droids.
Dude.
The
red one is
droids. Sweet. Okay. We got the yellow. I absolutely love these. I wish they'd make a droid hat with the logo. Oh my gosh, I would pick it up immediately. But for Ben who's seen droids, for all those fans out there.
Guys, I did a full review of it. I'm so happy that fans convinced me to watch it. they made me into a fan enough to say like, hey, I see a shirt. Yeah, I'll probably pick it up. I need to update my shirt style because you guys like you could barely see my designs. I have to like really stand up to show off. I'm rocking like a Leia shirt.
This one screams, Ben. This is so you, my man. Look at this.
Yeah. I love Riots of Colors. Yeah.
Awesome. Super cool. I had to show Ben that. I know he reviewed the show. I was like, Ben, you've got to come check out Droids. Okay. That was our short merch break for the night. I will spare everyone the rest. Or will I? Then, as you might know, we have Star Wars Celebration coming up, and there is exclusive merch for people going. Exclusive merch. And this one caught my eye today. You might say, Josh, are you going to Star Wars Celebration? No, so I can't buy any of these. This is just
guys, we're not going.
This is a High Republic version of, I think, those 3 books, like Path of the Jedi, Path of the Sith, etc. They're like special, I think, leather bound, where we have the Nihil sign, the High Republic, and the Jedi Order, which are really cool. These are fun if you're there. Absolutely.
Not available for public sale?
Not that I know of at this point.
Oh, shoot.
Scott just asked a question about the green jacket. Ben, why don't you hold the fort down real quick?
I'll do it.
I actually may or may not own that green jacket.
Let's see.
We shall see.
Guys, I'm holding the fort. So as far as the High Republic goes, I am 2 books in. I still have not read Fallen Star, which I really need to, but I love all of these books. I'm trying to like juggle in between the two, right? So I'm reading some Legends books. I'm reading some canon books at the same time. I'm reading a Mike Chan's Brotherhood, which I'm going to review for you guys later on. And I'm also reading Michael Stackpole's X-Wing series. I'm almost done with the Back to War, loving those. I really don't want to oversaturate myself with the High Republic books, but hey, what is this? Is this a Disney advertisement? Is it a commercial break? What is this?
I definitely own the Warriors of Mandalore jacket from Heroes and Villains. When they had a good sale, I definitely picked it up.
I loved how you like showed it on the live stream and you were just like pointing on it, and I knew something was going to happen there, and now you own it.
Look at that. That's how quick shipping is from Hero and Villains. I just walk out, they deliver it, and I come right back in.
Nice.
All right, sorry. It's like 1,000,000 degrees in here, so I'm not gonna wear this jacket. But I did certainly buy this jacket. They even have like the Arabesh in the on the zipper line, if you can see that.
Yeah.
Okay. Anyway, sorry to interrupt you, Ben.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, it's so hot.
So speaking on those High Republic books, I know, Josh, that you picked up the special edition limited covers. I went for the original covers. That's just something I prefer. I don't know. Part of my collecting experience, which you guys may know, I have the entire Legends paperbacks, plus I have all the canon books. I don't know. For me, part of the experience is buying what is available on the shelf. I'm not a huge exclusive guy as far as books are concerned. And this is a really awesome artwork. But Josh, if you could bring back that screen that you have, that's going to be exclusive offer for fans who like join the celebration, that you could get a signature plus all those 3 books. I'm thinking to myself, like, dude, can you please like release them into the wild out there so we can pick them out, because they look amazing, man. Like, what gives? What's up?
There is I get it both ways. I get the fact that people are paying good money, traveling across the country to go to Star Wars Celebration. And so like you have to give them some offerings. And Ben, there's some cool stuff that like I didn't even talk about.
Yeah.
Like there, Rex's Diner, they have a neon Rex Diner sign they're selling. Like the neon full scale at Star Wars Celebration. They also have a shirt with a logo that says like staff. Like looks like a 50s diner. I'm like, dude, that is hysterical. Like Attack of the Clones, that's hysterical. They have a towel that's like with Anakin on it. It's like about not liking sand. There's just some hilarious stuff on there. I will tell you, chat, one day when we're all giant and we're huge channels, we will be going to Star Wars Celebration. So you just stay tuned, and you can catch us there live. We'll do a show live from our hotel room. Isn't that right? That's what we're gonna do, 100%.
Yeah, I got caught with my pants down. Yeah, this is a special edition cover. I lied. on a live stream to Star Wars fans. I completely forgot. Yeah, but this is like still, it's a basic walk.
You
And I
can get it,
meant
yeah.
like, those special ones that were like $50 or $40. Those special
Yeah.
editions of
I know what you mean. I know what you mean.
Yeah, this one is kind of exclusive. I just look at the artwork like, hey, I want this version, but I want something that's like accessible to all, I guess. That's
I
what
get what you mean. Yeah. You like the fact that it can be found in the wild almost. It's
There
kind
you
of
go.
fun.
Yeah. That's what I
get
like
that.
about it too.
You know, speaking of which, the out of print, like I have the out of print Fallen Star, like you talked about. They also did, I think they're about to release the third Thrawn. Yeah, it's already sold out. They did like 3 special edition covers for Thrawn, and they were like elaborate for the Ascendancy. And I will go ahead and share the screen here. They just released and sold out of the third version. And they did portraits for everyone. Oh, I'm sorry, Chad. I just like yelled at that. They did portraits for each of these, and they have like the full front and back.
Yeah.
Super cool. Yeah.
But these are sold out.
Oh yeah,
of course.
$150.
Josh, can I just get it a little bit off topic there? I know I'm interrupting,
Yeah.
butting in with my love for Star Wars books. I don't know if you guys are available. This was available through British Amazon that I got. This was the 40th anniversary A New Hope book. It is available. It's not super duper rare, hard to find. I believe it was like $20 or $30. The only thing was the shipping was kind of long. Almost took me a month to get here. At least I got it during the pandemic. Today might be much quicker. But if you're jiving with some kind of like special edition, celebratory kind of books, obviously the original painting of the poster by Hildebrandt brothers, Tim and Greg Hildebrandt. I saw this. Unfortunately, they don't have episode 5 and 6, only this one. But I saw it and I said, like, dude, I gotta have it.
That is cool.
That is a cool one, right?
Oh yeah. That is like shelf worthy.
Yeah,
100%.
Yeah, that's why I like to keep it. Maybe I should display it.
Man, yeah, you really should.
Yeah. I love
to
me collect just like you love collecting merchandise and stuff, Funko Pops, all that stuff, Lego, right? Lego is your big thing for you, lightsaber swords. You just started your collection with helmets. I love doing that with books.
You know, you caught me again, Ben.
He's going again, guys. He's going again. Ruining the program here just to show
I
us.
actually just had the 50th anniversary 501st Trooper come out, sent over here. This was just kind of a cool Attack of the Clones coming out. I was like, okay, I need to have like, this was only like a $10, $15 figure. It's nothing special, but I just really like the 50th logo on the top and then, the figure here. There's something fun for me about like Star Wars collecting has been something that like has been a big part of it from the beginning. Like, as I've talked about a lot, like Revenge of the Sith, I remember they used to put the tent up in front of Walmart and you could get all the Legos and stuff. And I don't know, it's just something that's like part of the fun, like, being able to go out and have, I love having like subtle hats like this that say like Grand Army of the Republic, to where like only, certain fans will get it and people will come up and be like, oh man, it's a cool Clone Wars hat. And I'm like, yeah, like it's our thing, it's cool.
Yeah,
so I'm kind of a sucker for that kind of stuff.
Star Wars fans are very similar in that regard to heavy metal fans. I was in Israel a couple of years ago visiting my grandma. I'm walking through a street, this random Israeli dude in his like late 50s walking by, and he's rocking an Iron Maiden shirt. I was like, and he looks at me. Obviously, we don't speak the same language. Go like, like exactly. Acknowledgement. Yeah.
Before we wrap, because we are going so long, I appreciate everyone being here. I do want to talk about one more news drop that I kind of glazed over, and that is of an upcoming series led by John Watts, director of the most recent Spider-Man films.
Mm-hmm.
His series has been confirmed to take place post Return of the Jedi, and it's going to be around the reconstruction after the fall of the Empire, and it's described as a galactic version of the classic Amblin coming of age 80 films. If you guys don't know what that is, it's like E.T., right? That's an Amblin film from the 80s. And it's supposed to follow a young group of individuals during the time post fall of the Empire. Kind of reminded me, we talked about Super 8 during our podcast, Ben, briefly. And I had that kind of thought. I was like, oh my gosh, if it's like Super 8 in the Star Wars universe.
/ Rebels, right?
Heck yes. Yes. Heck yes. So that was what we know. That's a new series coming out, and One cool thing about this is that, it sounds like they're going to have a different style of show, very throwback-esque, Steven Spielberg-esque. I'm not, it is an era we've been to before, right? That's where we currently are with Mandalorian. We're in the New Republic era. So I kind of wish it was just somewhere totally different, like the High Republic, or I don't care, after Rise of Skywalker, because I just feel like you have so much more freedom. But of course, sounds new, sounds exciting. We'll see how it goes. John Watts, this is going to be interesting because a lot of people have been harsh on John Watts, basically saying that the Spider-Man movies he directed were just handed to him. Like, here are full scripts. A lot of people feel
Which
like
ones he direct?
All of the most recent Tom Holland ones. So
those are good.
They are. Homecoming, Far From Home, and No Way Home. They are good. They get the heart right with the character.
Yeah.
So I kind of trust him to do young actors in this universe. He could absolutely nail it. I just would like to see things not in. And one thing in Kathleen Kennedy's article, she did say they're starting to move away from the Skywalker, era. Please do. Please, we're begging you. Not that I don't love these characters. I mean, we're gonna be watching Kenobi at 2 a.m. next week with the rest of you. But I want more freedom for these creative teams, more new stories to tell. Right? Andor is going to be awesome. Ahsoka is going to be awesome. Mando is going to be awesome. But let's be honest here, they're kind of limited on what they can explore because we kind of know how it all comes together. But we don't know what happens on Mandalore during the whole sequel trilogy. So Mandalore is ripe for exploration. They're not involved at all.
We don't know what happens 100 years in the future with the Skywalker descendants or non-Skywalker descendants, somebody new. Oh, man. Wars are kind of finicky. They keep coming back. They keep happening,
One day, hot take, Josh coming in as we're closing out here, another hot take. I think the best way for Disney to regalvanize the sequel era is have a show or a movie or something after the end of Rise of Skywalker, bring back Rey, Finn, Poe in some capacity. Maybe they're not in every everything, but they're in that world, and give them an incredible show, an incredible movie that makes those characters really shine. And people can start to forgive what they didn't like or whatever. Because, we talked about this a little bit, Ben. The last taste you leave in the audience's mouth is very powerful. Rise of Skywalker was the weakest of the sequel trilogy. It's the last thing people remember. And that's why those characters feel like this. If you bring back an awesome new show or a movie or whatever where those characters exist, they might not be the main characters, but they might be active in the universe. And they might have great moments and great development. You can kind of start to turn that last taste in the audience mouth back around. People will be like, man, Rise of Skywalker stunk, but New Jedi Order or whatever they call it. I know I'm sacrilege, I'm taking, but it's like that show, New Jedi Order, man, it really did a lot. I actually really liked Rey in that. I thought she was so good. Or man, finally they gave Finn something to do instead of just run around in the background. He was awesome as the leader of this, right? So I think Disney will do that one day. I think it will be how they turn around the only way they can turn around the perception of those films, I think, is to give those characters redemption. And it is possible. I know this. It is possible because they did it for the prequel era. They gave us Clone Wars, and then they brought the actors back and hopefully gave them a great show in Kenobi. So I hope that's what they do one day. And the sequel, because you and I agree 100%, Ben, the actors are perfect. I mean, Poe Dameron, who is played by, Oscar Isaac's the man of the hour. He's in everything right now, and he's phenomenal in everything. He's phenomenal in Dune. He's great in Moon Knight. He's so good. And he was fine as Poe, but give him something more to do. Daisy Ridley is give her more to do. Give her character more time. She was so likable, so charismatic in the first film, especially, right? Give her more to do. John Boyega, you kind of just left him out to dry. I think he got the worst of it. They did nothing with his character, in Last Jedi in particular, and then definitely not Rise of Skywalker. They're great actors. Give them something to do, and you can turn around the perception. You can
actually, we don't agree. I contradicted you in the comments as you were leading the live stream into its conclusion. I incognito just contradicted you in the comments. I don't want anything else to see with these characters. It's It's not that it left a bad taste in my mouth. You know me. I'm
I
a
do,
fan. I enjoyed episode 9 as deeply flawed it is. I'm like, oh, okay, this is fun. Whatever.
It's your Attack
I
of the Clones.
what's that?
It's kind of like your Attack of the Clones. You're like,
So
it's
yeah,
fun.
yeah, 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 yeah. No, I'm telling you, I was watching Attack of the Clones. I'm like, crap, Ben. Don't lie to yourself. This is better than you remember. It's better than you told yourself. It's right. Right. But as far as sequels go, you know what? I'm done with it because of unexplored potential, because the potential that will never be there again. Like you can't reset it back to square one, restart where it needed to be. And every future effort to me will be like built on the ruins of what was, trying to reestablish, reconnect,
Well,
and rebuild. Like I don't care about this. I don't care about
well,
Ray. Don't care about Finn. Don't care about Paul. Leave them where they are. Do another cast.
well, I
That's
think, yeah, but I think I understand, but I think like you use those characters, don't connect it integrally into the story of the sequel trilogy. Don't
but
be
you
like
can't disconnect them.
you,
It's
but you
same characters.
for sure. But like, let's be honest, you can allude to things in the past, but tell entirely they're young. These actors are
Right.
young. That's the thing. I mean, outside of Oscar Isaac, they're all really young. You can wait 15 years from now and be okay. We're on to this new threat, this new thing, and now Rey's in more of a mentor role, and Finn is,
Right.
and it's like okay, like in these roles, they're so good and so likable. I'm trying to think. Okay, here you go.
Give me a
Ryan
quick
Reynolds was
scenario.
perfect for Deadpool, right? Ryan
Mhm.
Reynolds perfect for Deadpool. The first attempt at Deadpool was horrific. In X-Men Origins Wolverine, it's the worst thing ever. But you keep that actor on board, you recraft it, you retell. There's a redemption arc there. And I understand it's a totally different, but it can happen. Just my opinion, it can happen. They could do it, but we'll see.
This is where two friends can
Yeah.
dramatically disagree.
Well, it's all about
And
execution.
of course, I'm the right one, guys. So don't
That's right.
support Josh. It can be only one right person in this argument.
I'm trying to think of like, I'm trying to think of another example of where that's been done successfully, where you've had like characters start off in movies that weren't successful, and then like they had kind of a redemption arc where it's like,
Right.
well, I hated them in A, B, and C, but like, when they did them like
Sort of Captain
this-
America-ish, sort of Thor 2-ish.
Yeah. Oh yeah. There you go.
right?
Thor 1 and 2 were really weak,
Right?
and Thor 3.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's true. And they don't.
It happened.
Yeah, I mean, what a lot of movies do when the film leading up to them were weaker is they get kind of a little loose with their continuity. They're very comfortable with just saying, you know what? Like, I know this happened, but like, we're just gonna kind of pretend it didn't. I mean, we'll see. Hey, Deadpool is good, but not Deadpool and X-Men Origins Wolverine. I mean, that just wasn't the same character. That's the thing. But we'll see how it goes. I mean, I don't think let me just clarify if folks are, I don't think that's going to happen anytime soon. I don't think Disney is actively working. I don't.
Right.
I just think like 15 years from now, there could be a project out there which takes place 20 years, 30 years after the fall of the First Order. And it has, Rey's character in a mentory role, almost like Ahsoka has been towards Luke a little bit in Book of Boba Fett, right? And it's like, oh man, like I hated Rise of Skywalker, but like Rey is killing it here. Like this is good. Like this, I like her here. Like this is a cool character. There's an opportunity there. I mean, it's not going to happen anytime soon, but it could one day. Well, we have gone like an hour and 40 minutes, Ben. I think we just got to wrap it up. And there's still more to talk about. Ben and I have to have a conversation about recast versus deepfake. We have to get there, but
we'll get there.
Here's what's coming next week, guys. It's Kenobi week. It's Star Wars Celebration week. There is not going to be a Thursday night live stream next week because we are going to stream Friday afternoon. That is currently our plan. Friday, 11 Central. We gotta pick the time. We'll alert you guys as soon as we do. We're going to stay up late and watch them. And then we're going to get up Friday morning. We're going to do a little bit of an earlier stream so our fans in the UK can watch. And for our fans here, hopefully they can listen in. Or you guys, of course, can watch the recording when we're done. Because we're going to review it. We're going to talk about our thoughts. It is going to be some sort of live conversation. So be on the lookout. We will confirm it. We will promote it. And it is going to be magical, right? We are all optimistic. We're all excited about Kenobi. And guess what? When Kenobi's done, Ben, it's Star Wars Celebration weekend, which means there's going to be some new trailer or something coming out.
Hopefully
It's going to be, it's going to be wild. We're going to be sitting at home. We're going to be updating you guys. And so we will keep you up to date on when we're going to do a Kenobi stream. but we hope you are there with us. It's going to be a wild time. Let me just say one recommendation before we go. If you are not going to stay up till 2 a.m. to watch Kenobi, which I totally get if you can't, because normally I can't either, but I took work off on Friday so I could stay up all night to watch it. If you're on Twitter, delete it until you watch the episode. I have had too many things spoiled for me by getting on Twitter on accident and seeing, not even looking for spoilers, but stuff pop in my feed. So delete Twitter. Don't look at YouTube until you've seen it. Don't ruin it for yourselves.
It's
my
on
little
you guys.
recommendation.
Yeah.
My little recommendation. Oh my gosh, Ben. We're a week away, man. We're a week away.
It's almost there.
Well, guys, thank you for being here today. Ben, any closing thoughts? Anything you want to tell chat before we wrap it up for the night?
Yes, I do, guys. Again, in the spirit of our topic of discussion here, I want to keep it not on myself, but on the Kenobi. I want to keep it specifically, give a nod to all the fans that made prequels what they are today. You guys loved them. You guys grew up with them. You guys made them special, and they're always will be an integral part of Star Wars. I really hope that what this show does is bring my generation and your generation and the generation of social media together and say, bro, this is the greatest Star Wars I've ever seen. That's it. That's the message.
Big shoes to fill.
Yeah.
Look, first 2 episodes, we're going to see how we kind of get eased in, right? We'll see how it goes. I'm going to be very curious to see what these episodes contain. It's only 6 episodes. So those 2 episodes are actually going to be a big chunk of what we can expect. So it is going to be, I'm sure, a very lively time online, Ben. I'm sure it's going to be hot takes galore, and we're going to be there enjoying all of the flames that are coming out as we go. Yeah. Very cool. Well, thank you guys for stopping by. Busy week ahead, Kenobi week. Stay safe, stay healthy, because you want to be watching Kenobi with us next week. It's going to be fun. Thank you for stopping by, guys. For those rewatching later, we appreciate it. For those here live, we appreciate it. We'll see y'all again very soon.
Guys, and don't forget to have a good time. Don't take it all close to heart. Okay, there's like tons of Star Wars on the way. Just enjoy it. We'll see you later.
Yep. Thanks, guys.